Hello, everyone. This is Patrick Lopez. Thank you for joining us for this fireside chat. We're going to discuss at a high level about scalability in the cloud, and I will be hosting today. I am a consultant and analyst in the telecoms and cloud field. Specifically, I'm focusing at the intersection of those two areas, and right now looking after edge computing, Open RAN, and the scalability model between the hyperscalers and the telco operators and cloud. And my practice has released a number of reports on the subjects, and they're available at coreanalysis.ca. And I am welcoming today Abbas Jaffery. Abbas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Patrick. Thank you for the introduction to our chat today. Yeah, my name is Abbas Jaffery. I've been in the technology business for over 25 years. Don't guess my age on that. But so I think part of the journey has been over the last 5 to 8 years. I've been looking at cloud fairly seriously, leading up the charge on building the platform on the cloud. The focus has been actually the growth in the market, the movement towards digital transformation, and that really needs scalability. And I think with cloud, public cloud especially, it provides the lesser barrier to entries. So larger organization, especially the banking and payment industry where I come from, have been looking at ways to scale themselves and delight their customer by providing value-add services and their current services through the digital platform. So that's where I fit in. So we'll talk about scaling and what the impact of that is going to be in today and tomorrow and moving forward.
Very good. Thank you, Abbas. So you mentioned you've been in the financial industry for a long time and in fintech. Well, maybe we'll start just with a topic that is of actuality, and speaks to the fact that we're doing this discussion on video. How do you see the current situation and COVID and the different isolation model impacting your business and impacting the tech industry from a cloud perspective?
So I think the prime example of this particular unprecedented situation of pandemic, we are actually all gathered here through this virtual conference. Hundreds of thousands of people are connected across the globe, doing businesses and talking to each other. Just in my family, there is a prevalent usage of Zoom and a number of different things. And I think that is a prime example of what's coming in the future, especially in the financial services. There is a lot of demand of people doing their businesses digitally. Just in my household, Amazon is a regular drop-off. I get about 3 to 4 packages because my kids actually try to order a number of different things. I've never seen that many packages. Recycling is becoming an issue. However, what it tells us, basically, people are moving away from the brick and mortar type of stuff. They are going digital. The pandemic has accelerated this whole process, and that really means that organizations need to focus on how they can scale up, both from a technology perspective, from an organizational perspective. And Patrick, network is an important component of it, and I think that's where your expertise comes in. It's all in, packaged together, which needs to scale. Not just the cloud, it's the network, all the other part of the organization which needs to be ready from a resourcing perspective and the way they operate and all those things, right? So, yeah.
Correct. And when we talk about scalability, well, I guess in telecoms, scalability has always been from within. So in many cases, it has been about scaling the infrastructure. And then when cloud technology came in, it was about building a private cloud and scaling that up. I think like over the last few years, we've seen that public cloud have grown tremendously and very successfully. And increasingly, that has prompted the notion of having hybrid clouds and being able to scale not only with your private footprint, but also in the public cloud and in different manners. Do you see the same phenomenon in the financial industry?
Yeah, I think you put it in the right context. I think it's going to be a combination of both public and private cloud and or the hybrid. Number of reasons for that is, number one is basically the level of confidence people have from a security standpoint of view, whether it's right or wrong. I mean, that's the reality. Second part of it is the compliance with regulators, right? And the data, which needs to be where that needs to reside. And some of these things are becoming of extreme importance. Organizations are grappling with the phenomena of the growth they're seeing in the marketplace. Just example will be, Amazon has grown about 63% within this pandemic period. Phenomenal growth. You saw 10 million subscribers on the Netflix side. Similarly, we are seeing an uptake on a remote type of payments in the payment industry and the banking side of things, right? So those things are becoming extremely important. Some of the shifts we are going to be seeing in the future, which is kind of especially connected, the phenomenon of this connected world or the fourth industrial revolution, is how cars, homes, cities are going to be connected, and the amount of data which is going to be produced. The World Economic Forum has forecasted about 45 zettabyte of data, which means about 18 zeros after 44. I didn't really even realize that there's something called zettabyte, but that's the kind of data which we were projected to produce in 2020. I don't know how much more we have produced, because I think the situation has changed. And we will see an acceleration of going more digital, going more on the wire, going more on the cloud, and use of the hybrid cloud will be an important aspect of it. Absolutely.
Okay. In the infrastructure that you have managed, can you give us an idea of like the growth of traffic that you've seen over the last year, or since the pandemic started?
I think the growth in some cases where there was basically a little bit more friction. If you really look at where the physical aspect was involved, has decreased. But if you really look at the e-commerce type of traffic or the money movement from a P2P perspective, that has increased. And I think the numbers are somewhere between 40% to 45%, depending on the geographies and everything, right? So it's basically, it has changed phenomenally, both from a debit and the credit perspective. And there are new entrants in this space who are actually, because as I said earlier, there are less barrier to entry. Companies can start and scale pretty quickly. However, it needs a more engineered, more thoughtful process. People actually really need to understand it's about the ecosystem. It's not about just a cloud. It's not about just a hybrid piece. It's about the network, the ecosystem, and the processes you build around it, and the culture you create in the organization.
Okay, and changing gear a little bit. So we spoke about the cloud, the private cloud, and the public cloud, and basically the hybrid models that are starting to emerge. There's even one concept that goes further, which is open source, where we see a lot of open source technology and open source tools that are coming into the market in telecoms and in clouds. Is there any concerns about using those open source technologies within a financial industry sector?
I think there is a cautious optimism around it, right? There is going to be that concern. Partly, I think the organization really need to understand that open source is a reality. Even a developer within the organization can actually have access to certain things, and they can bring it down. Organizations need to build processes which are revolving around how well you build the system and what you deploy and everything, right? It's basically, part of it is basically models where you have risk mitigation around the code, around the pieces of the puzzle you bring to the table. Cybersecurity is going to be a major concern, and I think some of these things, from an open source perspective, those are realities, and I think people are slowly, gradually embracing it. It is part of our ecosystem, and it's not going to go away. So I think part of it is, yeah, you got to be cautious what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is also you need to figure out how you're going to support the open source, because in traditional organizations, you had these enterprise softwares where you had support and all those things available. But even in the open source business, there are third parties who are providing the support. Large organizations tend to de-risk themselves by getting the support, which is kind of an insurance from a software giants who actually can continue to invest into the software, invest into the code and the solutions they're providing. So it's here, and it's going to be here, and I think it's going to continue to increase.
And you see sufficient support from vendors and systems integrators to help you in your journey to the hybrid cloud and the adoption of open source technology?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's tons of vendors and partners who are well versed in the open source and hybrid cloud. And I think you can see that in the telco business as well, and similarly the financial services. We are, those two businesses are very highly regulated. People are relying on that. They're the lifeline for our economy and everything. So there is definitely that movement, and I think the vendors are there, and it's continuously maturing because the technology is changing so rapidly. So it'll basically be creating a culture, both internally and externally in the ecosystem, which allows us to scale both from a people, process, and technology perspective.
And talking about the culture, again, I want to draw a parallel here because in my world, in telco world, the adoption of cloud, the adoption of open source, and the move towards hybrid model forces changes in organization, methodology, culture even. Do you see the same thing happening in the financial world?
Yeah, I think, cloud is not just about, the infrastructure. It's about changing the way we work. The overall aspect of the entire agile movement, the lean practices. People really need to have a different hat, how we build and how we deploy either a piece of code or equipment or a network shifting. Those are things which are reality in the ecosystem. Companies who are not going to be adapting to that, because when you talk about scaling is also about how you scale your workforce, how you create the capacity to do things which are different, which you can actually take some managed or measured risk around things. And I think the reality is basically companies who are positioned to fail fast, to be able to iterate through things, are going to be the survivors in the new economy moving forward. Yeah.
So refocusing on the scalability aspect itself and the scalability strategy for the financial services, do you see hybrid cloud and you see using public cloud as a way to basically cloud bursts whenever you have sudden needs for services or there is congestion to go and grab capacity for the cloud? Or do you see it rather as a way where you're going to position some application and some workloads in the public cloud while you will keep, let's say, the most sensitive or the most performance related workload into your public cloud?
I think the data piece, especially the transactional components, I don't see in the foreseeable future moving to the public cloud. And there are a number of reasons, and we can debate about the reasons of security and privacy and regulation and everything. I think it'll be a combination of both, where you will see a burst and then you basically, scale up your resourcing. I think companies need to reevaluate the model of cap ops versus the capital cost versus the operational cost. Part of this whole notion is how far do you want to go? And in a regulated industry, it becomes a little bit of a challenging proposition to build everything on the cloud, which is fair.
Yeah.
Nothing right or wrong about it. That's basically what it is. I think you need to safeguard your customer, and it's very important, and safeguarding the citizens of the country. But at the same time, the cloud is going to be a reality. A lot of organizations who have taken a plunge into running their analytics, their machine learning, AI type of processes in the cloud because it's easier for them to scale. The massive amount of data which they're kind of going to go through, it cannot be done in a on-prem type of solution. It'll take a huge amount of capital cost to have that kind of resources available. So it's going to be companies are going to take a very different type of approach. They will look at a certain workload, which they can optimize into the cloud, and they will use it. And so it's a combination of both the model we talked about, where some of it is going to be a private cloud, some of it will be public cloud, and some of it will be a combination of both, right? So okay. I think it's just going to be.
And again, about the scalability aspect, when we're talking about hybrid cloud, are we talking also about multi-cloud? Are you looking at, when you have a hybrid cloud strategy, having several public cloud providers to which you can connect to and use infrastructure from?
Yeah, so there is a movement towards this multi-cloud strategy, and I think part of it is it's not an easy strategy. People really need to understand that you got to be very disciplined. You got to know what kind of workload you're going to be running in certain type of cloud and how you're going to scale from. It's about betting one or the other, right? I think over the next 2 to 3 years that will start clear the air once hybrid gets mature, because most of these public cloud organizations or companies are now offering a on-prem solution, which seamlessly allow you to be either on a on-prem versus a public cloud type of offering. So I think that is something which will continue to happen, and I think part of it is multi-cloud is going to be here. People will try different things. It's still in the early stages. I know there's a lot of use of cloud, but especially in the enterprise world where, such as banking and telecom and other, retail businesses which have been in existence for a number of years, they are taking a cautious approach, but they are really, really excited about the use of the technology and how they can leverage it to take advantage of, what this cloud and hybrid cloud bring to the table.
So you made a good point about the on-premise options of the cloud.
Yeah.
And I guess what we're seeing in telco is that beyond on-premise, you can mostly now create private clouds out of public cloud infrastructure if you wanted to, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And is that something, you see the public cloud providers as being a credible infrastructure provider for the financial industry when it comes to the cloud fabric itself that to be deployed on premise as a private cloud?
So they're in the early stages, right? If you really look at Amazon Outpost or Azure Stack, even Oracle has a dedicated cloud which they are pushing for. There is a serious movement towards looking at it very seriously. VM and Red Hat also provide those kind of services. I don't want to leave out any of those providers, but I think part of
Google Cloud as well.
Yeah, Google as well. Let's cover Google, everyone, Alibaba. But part of this is it's early. There's a lot of promise in it. It's basically the seamless way of implementing your solution, whether it's on-prem or on a public cloud. But
Yeah.
the on-prem will still have the limitation. People really need to understand. That means a limitation on the hardware, the size
Yeah.
of the hardware, and everything, right? So there's going to be that finite. Even
Yeah.
on public cloud, there's going to be that finite resources. The cloud companies are investing in multi-region, multi-availability zones, and all those things. I mean, that's something which we really need to do. Similarly, you need to have the similar investment on the network side. Multi-pipes, 10 gigs, 100 gigs, whatever that number
Yeah.
looks like and what the usage looks like. I mean, there's going to be those kind of things. There's going to be a bit of a strain on the network side of things, because if you're going to have this hybrid model, which
Yeah.
is connected through the cloud, there is those pipeline needs to be there, the latency issue, the cybersecurity issues, the logging and monitoring, and all those things needs to be coming to bear. I think people really need to take a cautious approach to it. I'm not saying they shouldn't be doing it. I think that this is all doable, but it needs to be very well engineered, very well thought out process. It needs to encompass the entire ecosystem rather than just one aspect of it, right? So I think that's the success factor.
Is there any concern that, I mean, traditionally private cloud have been assembled from x86 hardware with a lot of open source, let's say, virtualization engine like OpenStack, OpenShift, etc. Is there any concern that basically hyperscalers on-prem solution are closed environment? They're, single tenant and dedicated for their own purpose. Is that a consideration at all when you think of scalability?
I think the part of the decision-making process needs to be, what business are we in, right? And how much of engineering resources we can consume or throw at certain open sources or unsupported type of version. Companies who are smaller in size may be good to go with the engineered products, right? Single use, single-minded, and I think that's something which will work. Companies who are of engineering culture and scale that engineering culture are okay to build their own way of approaching cloud and how it's been engineered and all those things. So there's no single answer to it. I think there's going to be that hybrid thought process where people have to take one thing at a time and figure out what needs to be done. But the reality is you have both models available. It's pick and choose, and pick the right strategy for the company and the growth you're looking to do. Right.
Got it. Okay. I'm conscious of time. We have 7 or 8 minutes left, so I want to leave enough time for the Q&A portion of our discussion. So maybe we can jump into the Q&A if there are questions. And if there are no questions yet, we can ask our attendees to pose their question through the app in the Q&A section. And in the meantime, we're going to just address another question on our side here. So if we fast forward 5 years, what is the optimal scalability story on demand for the financial industry when it pertains to the cloud?
Fast forward 5 years, I think we need to look at the business model, shifting of the business model as to how the services are delivered. I think you will start seeing a shrinking model of brick and mortar type of model. You will see a lot of traffic, such as KYC and onboarding process shifting, which has already shifted to a certain degree. Education of credit and all those things. Those are things which are going to be moving away from the brick and mortar. People cannot afford to have branches closed down because of pandemic or any other reasons. And I'm not suggesting the branches were closed; they were open. They were part of the essential services. However, those disruptions cannot be afforded. You will see a shift towards more of an agile way of building the solutions. You will see a shift of picking the right solution for the right cloud, which is either the public or the hybrid.
Mhm.
you will see shifting of the business models. There are a number of new entrants in the digital banks, the digital only banks.
Yeah.
Co is an example in the Canadian market. There are a number of others. Just about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I think one of the Skip the Dish is actually looking at introducing a bank called Neo, and maybe so those are the market trends we are seeing. The traditional banks are also gearing up. Scotiabank has its own digital factory, TD and RBC. I have to take all the names now because
Yes.
BMO and all the large and small banks are looking at Meridian Credit is actually have their own piece of the puzzle they're working on. So you will see how the financial services and the products are offered to the customer. It has changed significantly. You can do majority of your transaction through the mobile apps and the online. Whatever is left, I think they are looking at how they can bring it to market seamlessly without creating issues from a privacy and all those things perspective. Slowly, gradually, you see a movement towards more digital platform in the financial services side, more optimal payment solutions. I think
Yes.
pandemic has accelerated that process, and I think you will see a huge amount of investment in that area going forward.
Okay. One last selfish question, maybe.
Yeah.
I mentioned in the telecom world, I'm looking at a lot of new use cases. One of them is about edge computing,
Yeah.
where basically the computing gets much closer to the client or the developer. Do you see any implementation or do you see any interest of edge computing in the financial market? I know that in the past I've looked at fast trading trends as well as providing like remote office, branch office capabilities from a virtualized environment. Are those things that are of interest in the future?
They are of interest, right? I mean, you talked about two of the use cases. I think part of it is also looking at how the IoT come into play, and those are the things which are going to be. I think it's a matter of the level of maturity from a business model perspective. It's not about just technology. Technology is already there.
Yeah.
It's basically enabling the business model. I think the financial industry right now is grappling from a fact as to how and what kind of traditional workload which can be moved over. Some of them are further ahead. Some of them are basically starting now, or they have started about 2 years ago. So you will see a shift there. Edge computing is going to be part of that ecosystem. It's not going to go away with the IoT, the autonomous cars, and a whole bunch of other use cases we are seeing. And I think those are the kind of things we need to really keep an eye on. They are of extreme importance, and it'll save a lot of round trip from a networking perspective. And I think that's something which it's coming. It's not too far out. Maybe about 3 to 5 years down the road. Absolutely.
Very good, very good. Well, thanks a lot. I think that's a good wrap up to our short discussion today. Any last word, Abbas?
No, actually, I was hoping that we will get some more questions, but I think we've covered pretty much everything. But thank you, Patrick, for hosting me. It was a pleasure. Yeah.
Likewise, it was a pleasure.
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. Look me up. My name is Abbas Jaffery, and and we can connect and we can have a chat. And I think my profile is all there on the site as well. So there's ways to get in touch, right?
Thank you very much, Abbas, and from my side as well. You can reach out either on LinkedIn or on my website coreanalysis.ca, and I'll be happy to have any conversation regarding clouds, hybrid clouds, and scalability.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Patrick. It was a pleasure.
Likewise, Abbas. Thank you very much.
Thanks.